19, June 16, 2019, Souls Harbor Full Gospel Church, 926 Weed Street, West Columbia, South Carolina. I just want to say happy Father's Day to the fathers this morning. And we're just grateful to God just to see another Father's Day. This morning, I'm going to share with you a message that's dear and near to my heart this morning. It's something I believe in. It's something that you should certainly believe in, and that's healing. It's dealing with healing today. I'm not going to keep you in suspense. I'm just going to tell you right up front what the message is going to be about. God has put that in my spirit for the last few weeks. It's all about, we're talking about healing. We've been talking about healing, and we've been also talking about sowing, reaping and sowing seed, various types of sowing, various types of reaping. But this morning, I want to talk about healing. But my subject this morning is troubled water. Somebody say troubled water.
Troubled water.
Troubled water.
Troubled water.
And that can mean a lot to a lot of different people. But troubled water. I'm going to be coming from St. John chapter 5, verse 1 through 9. St. John chapter 5, verse 1 through 9. How many of y'all want God to trouble the water for you this morning? Let's see some hands. Say amen if you can.
Amen.
I certainly want God to trouble the water for me this morning.
Amen.
Because guess what? If the water's not troubled, some of us may remain where we are.
Amen.
Some of us may stay in the same place, the same position where we are. But today we're going to talk about troubled water. How many of y'all are in need for God to trouble the water in your life?
Amen.
I'm certainly in need for God to trouble the water in my life. Are you ready for God to trouble the water? Are you truly ready, or are you just saying it?
Amen.
Let me see some hands. Somebody say amen. Somebody do something.
Amen.
But if you truly want God to trouble the water, say amen.
Amen.
And say it like you mean it.
Amen.
Say Jesus.
Jesus.
Trouble the water.
Trouble the water.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Yes, Lord.
Yes, Lord.
Say yes, Lord.
Yes, Lord.
My God. Look at your neighbor and say, trouble the water.
Trouble the water.
Say, trouble the water.
Trouble the water.
Today, some of us even feel like our faith is under fire today.
Yeah.
Miss Lynn, some of us feel like our faith is under fire. But guess what? We're going to turn this thing around.
Amen.
Our faith, why don't we try this? Instead of saying our faith is under fire, why don't we say our faith is on fire?
Amen.
Let's twist it. Let's trick the devil this morning. Let's make the enemy mad.
Yes.
My faith is not under fire.
Yes.
My faith is on fire. I
Yes.
decree it. I speak
Amen.
it, and it is so.
Yes.
On today,
Amen.
Lord, trouble the water today.
Yes.
The water today. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
The water's being troubled today. Why don't you jump in?
Amen.
Evangelist Simmons,
Amen.
Prophet Simmons, why don't you jump in this morning while the water's being troubled?
Amen. Thank you, Lord.
What's your excuse this morning?
Yes.
Are you telling yourself you don't have what it takes? Are you telling yourself, I'm still dealing with church hurt? And a lot of us deal with church hurt. That's some of the worst hurt you can get.
Yes.
It's church hurt.
Yes.
You go to a church and they don't know how to treat you. There is no love. There is no one that cares for you. There is no caretaker of your soul who's concerned about the total man. They know you by your tithe envelope. They know you by what you drive. But do they know you? Do they know the spiritual you?
Amen.
Do they really know who you are?
Yeah.
Lord, trouble the water. Are you feeling and telling yourself, no one will believe me if I try to take this faith and turn it from faith under fire to faith on fire? Nobody's going to believe in me if I go in there and say, hey, I'm full of faith and I command this, I command that. As long as I do it in Jesus' name, guess what? I'm crazy enough to believe today that God can do anything but fail.
Amen.
But fail. He can do anything but fail. I decree today that the sleeping giant in each and every one of you is awakened today.
Amen.
All of us have that giant inside of us, but some of us are walking around with a sleeping giant because we've been hurt.
Yes.
We've been abused. We've been misused. But guess what? Faith under fire or faith on fire? But guess what? I decree and declare to you today that God is troubling the water today.
Yes.
He that shall come will come and will not tarry. I come to tell you today to stay focused.
Amen.
Remain committed. Don't miss your visitation from the Almighty. Stay on spiritual alert this morning.
Amen.
Redeem the times. Remain the watchman on the wall, sounding the alarm. Get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready. Are you ready for the troubled water this morning?
Amen.
Evangelist Simmons, are you ready for the troubled water this morning? Are you ready for God to trouble the water in your life this morning?
Glory to God.
I'm ready. What about you?
Yes.
My God, I'm ready this morning. If you would, please turn with me to St. John chapter 5, and we're going to start in verse 1. St. John chapter 5, verse 1. The Bible declares in St. John chapter 5, verse 1, after this there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now there is at Jerusalem by the sheep market a pool, which is called in Hebrew tongue Bethesda, having 5 porches. Now they're giving us a description of the place. They said it had 5 porches, and it was located where? In Bethesda. That's where it was located at. And these lay a great multitude of impotent folk, blind, hawks, withered, waiting for the moving of the water. In John chapter 5, verse 3. So we see in verse 3 of John chapter 5 that there was various types of diseases. There was various types of people with different issues.
Yes.
No one had the same issue. It was like a hospital, basically.
Yes.
When you go to a hospital, there are many people with so many different issues.
Yes.
As we see in verse 3, some were impotent, some was blind, some were withered. But guess what? They all was waiting for the same thing. The troubling of the water. Troubled water. For an angel went down at a certain season into the pool and troubled the water. Back to verse 4, the Bible declares, for an angel went down. Now check this out. An angel went down at a certain season. Now this didn't happen all the time. The Bible declares it was a certain season that the angel went down into the pool and troubled the water.
Yes.
Whosoever then first, after the troubling of the water, stepped in was made whole of whatsoever disease he had. So if you was there, Evangelist Simmons, if you was there, Sister Dorothy, and Sister Dorothy got in the pool before Evangelist Simmons, guess what happened? Sister Dorothy received her miracle.
Yes.
Sister Dorothy was made whole.
Yes.
Because the Bible clearly declares in St. John chapter 5, verse 4, for an angel went down at a certain season into the pool and troubled the water. Whosoever then first, after the troubling of the water, stepped in was made whole. So you have to do something. You can't sit there Sunday after Sunday, Wednesday after Wednesday, wait for the man of God to come to you. You have to go to him. You have to pull on God. You have to pull on the anointing. You have to believe that God can do it. Whosoever was stepped in first. How many of y'all want to be first today? Raise your hand. I certainly want to get in that troubled water first.
Yes.
I won't be greedy. I want you to jump in with me.
Yes.
Verse 5. And a certain man was there which had an infirmity for 38 years. My God. Now, you think he sat there for 38 years? Or he just had an infirmity for 38 years? I'm led to believe that the Bible clearly declares that he had the infirmity for 38 years. That's not necessarily saying that he sat at that pool for 38 years. I'm certain that he did other things in between. Verse 6, when Jesus saw him lie and knew that he had been now a long time in that case, Jesus saw him. And Jesus recognized the fact that this man had been in that condition for a very long time.
Yes.
He said unto him, will thou be made whole? Jesus just simply asked him a question. Will thou be made whole? Just keep in mind now, troubled water. How that's connected to will thou be made whole?
Yes.
The impotent man answered him, Sir, I have no man when the water is troubled to put me into the pool. But while I am coming, another steppeth down before me. He didn't answer Jesus' question. Jesus simply asked him, will thou be made whole? Instead of answering Jesus, he made an excuse. I have nobody to put me in. Yes. That's not what Jesus asked you. Jesus asked you, will you be made whole? Instead, you come with every excuse besides the question that Jesus asked you. If Jesus was to ask you today, Evangelist Simmons, will thou be made whole? How many excuses will you give him? Or will you simply say yes?
Amen. Yes.
Not only say yes, but a complete yes.
Amen.
Sometimes Jesus is often calling us. Jesus is often talking to us. But we make so many different excuses rather than simply answer what Jesus is asking you.
Amen.
Will thou be made whole, Prophet Simmons?
Yes. Amen.
The answer is what?
Yes.
Yes. Don't give excuses. Like the man did at the pool of Bethesda, he gave excuses. He answered him and said, I have no man to put me in when the water is troubled, to put me into the pool. But while I am coming, another step before me. That's no excuse.
Amen.
Verse 8, the Bible declares, Jesus said unto him, rise, take up thy bed and walk. Did Jesus didn't even have to lay his hands on him?
Amen.
He didn't have to pull out a bottle of oil.
Yes.
He simply said, rise.
Yes.
Take up thy bed and walk.
Amen.
How much, just look at the amount of authority that he had.
Yes.
God, the creator himself, spoke the word, rise, take up thy bed and walk.
Amen.
How many of you today are willing to rise?
Yes.
Take up your bed and walk. I decree and declare to you today, rise, take up your bed and walk. Amen. Stop giving excuses. Everything come out of your mouth is an excuse. Yes. Instead of giving an excuse, just rise, take up your bed and walk and follow him. The day you hear my voice, harden not your heart. Verse 9, the Bible declares in St. John chapter 5, verse 9, and immediately the man was made whole. You see how easy that was? All he had to do was rise, take up his bed, and walk.
Amen.
When God gives you a command, do it.
Yes.
Don't second guess it. Don't think about it. You, and you. Just do it. Amen. Like Nike say, just do it. Yes. When God gives you a command, just do it. Rise, take up thy bed and walk. Amen. And immediately in verse 9 declares that the man was made whole. And he took up his bed and walked. And on the same day was the Sabbath. In John chapter 5, the Bible declares two things actually took place in John chapter 5, believe it or not. Two things took place in John chapter 5, verse 1 through 9. In fact, we can say two things took place in John chapter 5. A miracle and a sermon took place. The miracle was the cure of an impotent man. That was the miracle, the cure of an impotent man that was diseased for 38 long years. With the circumstances of that cure, all it took was Jesus to say, rise, take up thy bed, and walk. The sermon was Christ himself when he was persecuted as a criminal for healing that man on the Sabbath day. But guess what? A process took place, and it was an order of events. Because Jesus, first of all, the water was troubled. Let me back up. Number one, the angel troubled the water. Number two, you had to step in the water to receive your healing, which the man didn't do because he made excuses. Process, order of events. Jesus, here's Jesus. All he said was, will thou be made whole?
Amen.
Order of events.
Yes.
The man said, I have no one to put me in. There's others to get in front of me.
Yes.
Then Jesus said, rise, take up thy bed and walk.
Yes.
And the miracle was done. It was finished. It was complete.
Yes.
That quick. This man been somewhere 38 years.
Yes.
That's right.
Because he allowed others to get in front of him.
Yes.
Prophet Simmons, are you going to allow others to get in front of you this morning?
Hallelujah.
Miss Betty, are you going to allow others to get in front of you this morning? Or are you going to get what God has for you this morning and ain't no devil in hell going to stop you? That's the attitude you have to have.
Yes.
My God, it was an order of events. But there's something still just bothers me about that John chapter 5. The part that bothers me, when Jesus asked him the question, would thou be made whole? This man came up with an excuse. Rather than just simply saying yes.
Amen.
The man never stated that he wanted to be made whole.
Yes.
He only said, others stepped in before me, and he
Yes.
had no one to help him.
Yes.
So his condition, he probably could have been healed a long time ago if he had had the initiative, if he had had the will, if he had had the drive to try to crawl, do whatever it takes to get in the water, to keep others from getting in front of him. Sometimes you have to do something. You can't just sit there and wait on God. Sometimes you have to move.
Yes.
You have to take that first step. You have to be willing to go the distance to get your miracle. Will thou be made whole when the water is troubled this morning? Not only did that water have the ability to heal, that was no ordinary water. Because that water, there is water. But that water had the ability to heal every sickness, every disease. That water had the ability to make you completely whole. How awesome is that? To run across some water that's going to do everything for you.
Amen.
Not just heal you, but make you whole.
Amen.
Troubled water.
Yes.
38 years. He didn't spend all that time most likely at the pool. He did other things, I'm pretty sure, out of 38 years.
Yes.
Will thou be made whole? Troubled water. The impotent man was helpless. And not only helpless, he was hopeless.
Amen.
Until Jesus came by.
Yes.
And guess what this morning? We may be hopeless, we may be helpless, but guess what? He's coming by for us today. He's coming by not only to see about us, but to give us a fresh touch. He's coming to give us fresh oil this morning, and he's coming to see about us on today. Why don't you trust him on today? Why don't you yield to him on today? Let him trouble the water in your life today. Let him trouble the water in your life. Don't you want the water troubled in your life today? How many of you all are willing to step in the water when it's troubled this morning? Raise your hand. I'm certainly willing to step into the water because I want to be made whole.
Yes.
Some of you all might like exactly where you are. If you do, stay there.
Amen.
But I don't like where I'm at. I'm trying to go higher, higher, higher in him today.
Yes.
I want God to trouble the water in my life today. I want to step in. I want to push everybody back.
Amen.
All the things that's around me, every distraction, every sickness, every disease, every infirmity, I push it back this morning.
Yes.
I'm determined to step in the water today, no matter what it looked like, no matter what it feels like.
Yes.
I'm determined
Amen.
to make Jesus my choice this morning.
Yes.
Are you determined today? Troubled water. Are you determined this day to let God trouble the water in your life today?
Yes.
I just want to thank you, and I thank God for the word. May it bless you real good on today, and happy Father's Day, June the 16th, 2019.